Sometimes the world looks like you ain't ever seen it before. Stuck behind never-ending windows, all you need is a door. Searching for something to put a smile back on your face. Just remember, in unusual times, it can come from an unusual place. You need a partner for the ride, 'cause everybody needs a Clyde. So set your worries to the side. Just ask, say the word and I'll be there. Just ask, you know the greatest things in life all come in a pair. They say hindsight's 20/20, but that ain't far enough behind me. So if you want the sweetest honey, I think hindsight's 1990. There's no need to pretend I got a hand I can lend, 'cause when you really need a friend, just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.
Are you ready to slay another day? So are we. Welcome back to Shit 90 Shows Taught Me. I'm Jess Sterling, here with my co-host, Sara Fergenson. Sara, how are you?
Jess, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous to be here strictly because there's nothing worse than Jessica Sterling gets to say, I told you so.
I told you so!
Yeah, get it out of your system. Get out of your system.
Oh, werewolves!
Please. I need to sage this podcasting network. It's going to be rough here because Jessica loves being told that she's right. It's one of her biggest passions in life.
It's the best feeling in the entire world. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. It literally being right. It just is.
I've literally said you said the best feeling in the world is like being told you're right. I mean, I prefer having an orgasm, but whatever flows your boat.
Yeah. Nope. Tell me I'm right all day long.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever flows your boat. But we have a very exciting guest today to talk out the pre-team Edward, team Jacob, the thing that started it all.
Yes, before there were Edward and Jacob on Twilight, there had to be vampires and werewolves on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and we were joined by someone who is not just a Buffy fan, but had a Buffy Twitter account. Like from the point of view of Buffy, it is. If you're a fan of Survivor, Millennials, Gen X, you'll recognize her. Hannah is joining us. Hannah Ness. And Hannah, how are you?
I am so happy to be here. There's nothing. I warned Jess before we started this. I said, if this is like a 4 or 5 hour episode, how are your listeners going to feel? Because I could talk about Buffy all day. This podcast has given me the best excuse in the world to get to rewatch a bunch of season 2, which I know you guys have been enjoying. I listened to a bit of the pod and I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I did the dorky thing of creating a secret Twitter account for Buffy herself.
Do you want to talk this out with us? Because how did it start? And I think I knew about the Buffy Twitter account. I just didn't know it was from the perspective of Buffy, which is fascinating.
Yeah. At chosen_gal.
No, I want to warn the people listening. This was not a popular account. This does not have thousands of followers.
Listen, you had 16 people just waiting to see what you'd say next.
This was a real passion project. I seem to have started it in 2018.
Okay.
And it's not currently active, although if listeners of the pod suddenly follow it and demand tweets, Buffy can come back to Twitter.
Okay,
this was really just
what was the last thing that Buffy said?
I'm gonna make sure it's not a spoiler, because I think that's important. The last thing that she said is a bit of a spoiler. So let me try to find a different. It's a bit, yes. Warning to the listeners: if you've never seen Buffy, some of these reference Here's one that's not a spoiler. And again, this is not something that I boast about her, but this is just a weird little fangirl thing. She tweeted, fine, I'll admit it. Sometimes I lead men on by not immediately punching them in the face when I meet them. That's,
No.
oh, this is so embarrassing. I never
Classic
thought
Buffy.
I would read this. It's amazing that guys ghost me. Always tend to haunt me a few months later with a "you up" text. What was I doing here?
You were just feeling your Buffy fantasy.
Mhm.
Last night, I threw a ribeye steak at a vampire instead of staking him, just for the gag. He got away and totally murdered a bunch of people, but it was worth it because comedy is about committing to the joke.
I love
This is
it.
what, yeah. If you're wondering what like fading reality stars do in their time, this was me in 2018.
That's incredible. So Hannah, tell us a little bit
Mhm.
about how you found Buffy. Like, when did you start watching Buffy? I know you're a huge fan.
Yeah.
Obviously, people don't just start Twitter accounts as characters from television shows unless they really love them. So tell us about your history with Buffy.
Yeah, so when I grew up, I didn't have cable, so the only shows on were the Reba show and the ambush makeover show where they'd run up to women and then tell them their hair was bad and give them a bob. Like, I don't know if it was an early 2000s thing. I was telling someone this at a dinner party and she said that she was on that show and she did get a bob. So those were my only two TV shows, really. And Friends was on there.
Mhm.
But in high school, I got a computer from my grandma, my grandma Barbara. And then I had all TV at my fingertips suddenly. And this was, let's see, freshman year of high school. This is going to age me, but like 2010. So I would guess that's when I found Buffy. I don't have an exact memory, but I didn't watch it while it was airing.
Mhm.
I mean, mainly because I was born in 1992. So that would have been
Yep.
a little early. But my guess is when I got the computer, that's when that has to be when I found Buffy.
Were you like a fantasy fan prior? Like, what were you into in terms of like media, books, whatnot?
God, that's a good question. God. It's weird thinking about this. I'm like, I don't exactly know when I developed the things that I liked exactly, since it's been over a decade. That's what
Mhm.
happens when you're in your 30s. You're like, I'm not sure exactly the point
So
at which.
relatable, yeah.
I mean, I read like Harry Potter as a
Yeah.
kid. I
Mhm.
remember being at summer camp when the books were coming out, and like my parents, some of the kids got the books sent to them and some
Mhm.
didn't.
Oh.
And I didn't want spoilers. And my bunkmate said that she wouldn't give me spoilers, but she was upset about Dumbledore and mad at Snape. And so I put together that Snape, spoiler, killed Dumbledore. And so as a kid, like, that was a really big affront to me. So I sort of
There's
grew
a
up.
special spot in hell
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
girl.
By any
Oh,
chance,
yeah.
was this at a Jewish sleepaway camp?
No. Okay, this is a real pet peeve of mine. I never went to Jewish sleepaway camp, and I have a theory that's why I didn't get my first kiss until college. Because I went to the most like I went to a YMCA camp once. Like, everyone, if I had gone to Jewish sleepaway camp, like all the other little Jewish kids, I would have had my first kiss earlier. No, it was Camp Hawthorne in Maine. It was by a lake. It was beautiful. But it is where Harry Potter got spoiled. So yeah, I grew up with like Harry Potter. And then, like I said, I wasn't watching much TV until I got my computer. So I went through like a Disney Channel thing way too late. Like, it's supposed to be middle school. I was like high school watching Wizards of Waverly Place. And that's where I just started consuming a lot of TV. And then by the time I went to college, I was studying TV and film at Northwestern. So I was watching a lot of shows.
Mhm.
And you told me this. I don't know why I'm saying this on mic too, but you guys watch the Parks and Rec pod. When I love a show, Pawnee Public Radio, the throwback, I really love a show. So Buffy is one of the shows that like I've watched so many times, and it means a lot to me. Yeah. And a quick shout out too, like, because some of the things, like, I'm sure we'll talk about. There's a YouTube analysis called Passion of the Nerd And he also dives into Buffy and sort of the like ideas behind the show of like existentialism that Joss Whedon buys into. And like he talks a lot about like when Christoph Beck, like about this point in season 2, starts scoring Buffy, you go from like those like syncs to like the gentle music. He talks a lot about that. So definitely some of what I'll talk about is from that channel. So people should, who listen to
I'm
this
sure
pod
people
should
that are
also check out that
listening,
channel.
know about it. Because I feel like the vast majority of people that listen to the podcast, and I could be wrong, but it feels like most people have seen the show and like love the show and are huge fans. It's like one of the main reasons we decided to cover it is because it's just a big show, right? Like it is one of the shows of the 90s, specifically obviously in this like fantasy genre. But yeah, we're going to talk about season 2, episode 15, Phases. And gosh, just incredible. So I need to point out a few things. Number one, Sarah, just last podcast, we were speculating as we do on like the title of the podcast, right? And I was like, Phases. I'm like, Phases of the Moon, werewolves, right? And now I have speculated that many, many, many of these episodes would be about werewolves because it's obvious. Like, hello, we're in a fantasy world. There have to be werewolves at some point. But one listener, our friend Todd the librarian, pointed out that quite a few podcasts back, I had made a prediction about something that it was kind of a throwaway joke. We got feedback asking, did I still hold out hope for werewolves on the show? And this was my answer to that question. I've never given up. I've never given up on the hope for werewolves. We got like sort of zombies this episode. So like nothing is off the table, right? Like I could totally still see werewolves being a thing.
Yeah, I think it's possible.
What if Oz is a werewolf?
Then
Whoa,
so exciting. I'm so happy.
wow.
So exciting. I'm so happy.
Yes. And it was a throwaway. What if Oz is a werewolf? And even as I was watching this episode, it was not something that was on my mind that like it could be Oz.
Really?
Yeah, well, no, because I felt like the show was doing, here's the thing. I've watched a lot of garbage television in my life, okay? And so as a result, sometimes I feel like these shows are going to take the easy route. So when I meet an a-hole jock who's being mean to people and just like being a little bit of a bully and he gets a visibility spike, I'm like, obvious baddie right in front of my face, because a terrible show, or not a terrible show, like a more straightforward tropey show would do that. But Buffy is better than that. And Hannah, I should have known better at this point that Buffy is better than those shows. But I was like losing my mind when it was revealed that it was Oz.
No, I feel like we should ask you questions about the world. It feels like you are able to predict things pretty accurately. No, the coolest thing about Buffy is from the jump when we have Darla in the high school with the guy. They reverse it, right? You know,
Yes.
It's you guys called it the precursor to Twilight. You know, Twilight, in which the girl needs saving, and there's all these weird purity culture undertones. It's not a shit on people who love Twilight, but you know, this is the reverse. This is, and yeah, you know, it's a Whedon universe.
Yeah. So
Gonna be
Sarah,
clever.
it seems like you like when in the episode were you getting the vibe that like, okay, it's Oz?
As soon as they confirmed that it was a werewolf episode, I was like, okay, so it's going to be Oz. I just like knew. I was like, because we've been waiting for it. We speculate that a lot of these side characters do have special abilities or will get special abilities at one point. And I just felt like it was Oz's time. I really, really like how they went about it. And I mean, Hannah, maybe you can clear this up. It sounded like this was not something that Oz has experienced for a while. This was like a recent thing because he made this like offhanded comment that like his cousin or something like randomly bit him or something like that. Am I correct?
Yeah,
this is a recent ailment.
Yeah, it seems to be his cousin bit him. He's now a werewolf. I am actually so curious because anytime I criticize the episode, I just want it to be clear to the listeners, I'm criticizing a show I love dearly. So it comes from love, but I have some like structural, like edits I would make in hindsight to this episode.
Yeah.
And I'm curious as new like watchers, if you'll agree with like my structure, like pitches, and maybe
Mhm.
we'll do it like as we go through more.
Yeah, I love that.
But yeah, I believe this is the first time. I think potentially, I'm sure there's a smarter listener that will be able to explain this to me. Potentially a bit of a plot hole that the first night he doesn't wake up naked somewhere, like it's the second night.
Yeah.
A bit of a like interesting thing there, but
Maybe
but,
he just
ignoring
wandered
that,
back home and like got
That's what
into
I'm
bed
thinking.
and then he was like, I always sleep in the nude. This is totally normal.
Yeah, or he's in a band. Maybe he was drinking. Who knows? But yes, this is the first time he's turned. His cousin bit him. He calls his aunt, I think, in a very funny scene.
It is.
Yeah.
We'll get to it, but it's absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, the casualness with which it's like, hey, BT Dubs, is my cousin a werewolf? Is incredible.
I just want to know, like, are we not concerned that his cousin is biting people? Just like, I don't know, my cousin never bit me. Is this like, it's not a normal thing.
Yeah. Because usually, like, you'd expect that from, like, maybe, like, a 3-year-old. But, like, I assume his cousin is older.
I imagine the cousin. No, I think the cousin's like 2 or 3. Sorry, I imagine this was a baby who was a werewolf.
Baby
I just wanna be-
werewolf.
Oh, so maybe you just put him in a crate when he turns.
Yeah, sorry. I guess there's no evidence. I always imagine this as like a 3-year-old sort of like bit him jokingly. Oh, it's little Tommy or whatever his name
Jordy,
is. A werewolf.
I think it was.
Jordy,
right?
thank you. Tommy and Jordy are the same.
Jordy is a childish name, right? Do you call adults Jordy?
No, I think this is like a 2-year-old. I think that he got bit by like, and 2-year-olds bite people all the time. I say not as a parent with no evidence that this is true.
Listen, we talk about parenting advice all the time. Neither one of us are parents. It's totally fine, But you could contain a 2-year-old, like you could. So maybe it's not as worrisome as an adult because you just like, if you have a leftover crate from a dog or something, okay, we know the full moon's coming. Just bloop, it's just a couple days and throw some raw meat in there. Good to go.
Exactly. But you got to make sure your kid's not biting people then.
Yeah.
Kind of create an army of werewolves from your 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sincerely.
But we start the episode and instantly I was excited about this because
Me too.
Sarah, they mention the cheerleading trophy all the way back from season 1. And we said, like, we're like, is this going to come back? We hope so, right? Like where is it the mom who ends up in the cheerleading trophy?
Yeah.
And Oz is looking at it and he's like, oh, it looks like her eyes are following me. And I freaked out because I was like, oh, please don't let this be the end of that storyline because I would love for them to bring that back like even a few seasons down the line.
At the very least, I really like the shout out. There was a couple of moments in this episode where they were referencing season 1 episodes, which I really like. I like it when shows can reference themselves because that means like the writers actually know the show that they're writing about. And it's just like they don't have like amnesia from previous, but I really enjoyed the little, even if it was like a little reference that happens and we don't see the I think it was episode 3. It was like the mom was a witch and it was the cheerleading episode.
Yeah.
Even if we don't see the mom and the witch like come out of the statue or the trophy rather, I'm happy that they made a reference to it.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about Buffy is that it's a world where there are consequences that last the whole time. And I won't comment specifically on, because obviously I've seen the show, but there are things and lines that happen even in season 1 and 2 where down the line 6 and 7, they may or may not explore it, but they might have a line referencing it. Like there's something that happens at the end of season 2 and it's referenced, I believe, all the way in season 6, but it's an offhanded line because the universe stays consistent for the most
really
part.
like that.
Minus a few weird season 1 things that will never return, like eggs hatching and secret academies. Spoiler that those don't return, but mostly it's a world that has consequences, not just the things that happen, but the effects they have on the characters. Like season 1 is like such a monster of the week show, and it becomes more serial. But beyond that, even things that happen in season 1 really do affect, like stay in effect, and the world exists, which is why the world feels like richer and richer every season, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, so I loved that little throwback. And of course it's Oz that's looking at the trophy, and Willow comes up and they talk about their little date that they had last night. And I can't even help it, Hannah. Every time that
Mhm.
Waz is on my
Mhm.
screen, I tend to squee because I find them to be just so freaking adorable. Like in a way where we've talked about this. I'm not into like the schmoopy schmoopies. It's why I'm not a huge Bangel fan. But I love a cutesy little, oh, we're so awkward and like we don't know what to say or do. I love this little romance. It's so cute.
If you hear my dog barking, I apologize. She's trying to stay on theme with the werewolf theme of
Yeah,
the episode.
Totally
yeah,
Dog,
fine, yeah.
she has
werewolf.
opinions.
If she becomes too distracting, I will move. Yeah. Willow and Oz just, I really keep saying like they sizzle. Like you talked about how beautiful he in the last episode, how beautiful when he rejected her for a kiss and he said, I want to kiss you. Like his rejection for a moment of kissing her was more warm and fuzzy feelings than a lot of the most romantic scenes on television. They just work. And it's very, very cute. Yeah.
Mhm. Sarah, how are you feeling on Waz? What's the meter? Where are you on the meter?
The meter's pretty high. I am liking them more and more every episode. I think that it's really sweet. It's just like very, very sweet and high school and genuine. And especially how Willow takes in the information later in the episode and accepts him. Beautiful. Like I really, really, really like that, especially because it's just like such a teenager like sentiment to feel like you have this like big secret or like big flaw about you, and like to open up to another person. Of course this goes into adulthood also, but and they accept you for who you are, and you're like all those worries that you're going to get rejected or like they're not going to like you for who you really are. It's really sweet to see it just like evaporate between the two of them, and I loved it, and I love that Oz is respectful. I love that Willow gets to like take an active role in pursuing a lot of the times and initiating and being able to jumpstart it, which I think is really good for her character, who has been like sidelined a lot in her life. And I think like a lot of that has to do with like the work she's been doing herself, but also having like a really, really good friend in Buffy who they openly communicate about relationships. They openly communicate about being intimate. And I think like their friendship is making both of them like better people. So I'm loving it on all fronts.
Yeah. They're so
Yeah.
cute. I can't. They're so
They're
cute.
so cute. And not to like get too heady about it too, sorry, but like a lot of Buffy is about choice and making choices. I mean, I know you guys covered Lie to Me, which I think is sort of almost a thesis statement of the whole show. This idea that sometimes you have good choices, sometimes you have bad choices, but you make choices. And it feels like they're the relationship on screen where we see them both actively choosing, which gives it more meaning. We have like Cordelia and Xander being drawn to each other almost without choice. And, the whole Angel Buffy thing almost feels faded too. But to see two characters make active choices makes it feel special and important in the show's thesis.
It wasn't like instantaneous, right? Like Willow was preoccupied with Xander at the time. And I like that it took her a minute to kind of realize like Xander is this kind of vision she's had, this dream, right? She's very much romanticized what a possible future with him could look like, when the reality is she has someone absolutely incredible who adores her right in front of her face. And so I think getting to watch that unfold is just so great, especially because again, I love a short king. Like I think it's great. I
Yeah.
like when we see a woman that's taller than a man and they're dating. Like I just like it. So So yeah, let's talk
They're
about
cute.
let's talk about Larry to bring down the mood for a second. Larry here, who originally, like I
Mhm.
said, a lesser show would have made him be the villain in this like Monster of the Week format because again, like you said, Hannah, we don't necessarily know what episodes are going to inform the like season long arc versus which are more of like okay, we're taking a detour down this road to do a Monster of the Week moment. I thought Larry could be our Monster of the Week because he's immediately antagonistic. You know, he's a bully.
Jess, that would have followed the season 1 pattern, in fairness to you,
Mhm.
where you get it like the cyber guys. You get introduced to a character and they're immediately the bad one, the one with the zombie brother. You know, usually in season 1, the person you get introduced to or reintroduced to does that. So based on season 1, you had the right instinct.
Yeah. Yeah, and he does the thing where he's like, "Oh, I want a piece of Buffy and Willow." Sarah, he knocks like some girls' books down just to like play grab ass in the hallway. Like very
Mhm.
obviously bad guy vibes.
Yeah, I mean, and then even more so, very obviously overcompensating for his own struggles within himself. But
Mhm.
we will get to that shortly.
Yeah.
I think that like it's understandable. I mean, we're trained when we watch TV in a way. It's just like it's kind of like what I was talking about with like Breaking Bad with Adam because he was like, "Oh, like I who do you like Walter or Skylar?" And I was like, "Well, Skylar's annoying." And apparently the creator is like, "Well, a lot of people say that and like it's, she's being lied to, so it's kind of like a case of misogyny." And I said, "Well, you know what? I'm getting trained. Like when I watch a show, the first character I get introduced to in my head, that's the protagonist. That's the person that I'm rooting for, right? So in a way, like how I'm trained to watch TV, I meet somebody, they're the person I'm rooting for. It doesn't matter if like they're like a bad person, which they are. But I was just saying that because it seems like we got trained from season 1 to expect something to happen, more Monster of the Week style, or even if not Buffy, just like a whole heap of other shows that have the same sort of formatting where you meet a character that you've never seen before, and then by the end of it they're the bad guy or like a deado. So good instincts, not as good as my instincts,
Yeah,
but
but you're also not Nostradamus who could predict the future. So
well, there was the time where I had all the dreams that I've had. uh and usually remember
I'm only good at predicting things on TV, not in real life.
and I'm only good at predicting when people have chlamydia. We all have our talents. We all have our talents.
So speaking of predicting who has chlamydia, Buffy and Willow, I don't know about that transition. Maybe, I mean, Buffy could have chlamydia. I guess we don't know where Angel's been.
Jessica.
We don't know where Angel has been. He's 200 years old, Sarah. He's bound to have had
He's
chlamydia at some point.
No, he's sad and alone, and now he's
Now
evil.
he's in and
No
jealous.
Angel in this episode at all. It was terrible.
No,
Nope.
there was
There was
Angel.
no, there was Angelus.
Angelus.
I
There was
said
Angelus.
Angelus. Yeah, sorry.
A little
Angelus.
flattering.
Yeah, he was there a little bit.
Yeah, I would also like to say, because I agree this is a better show than the ones you're comparing it to. I think this show, this is part of Into the Critique, is better than how it wrote some of our two-dimensional misogynists this
Yes.
episode.
Yes.
And so the like, thank you, Thigh Master. I totally understand there are deeper layers. We'll get into it in terms of like why, but it felt like a caricature, which made it harder to, and we'll talk about the thing that the episode did not need later, the cartoon misogynist that they thought they needed to throw in there. But I just think I just think the show is better than that. I think
It's better. It's better than that.
It's better than the
I
90s in which it occurred in, where like all of this stuff was so prevalent and like, right? Like people get on me for the Xander slander, but like I can't help it. He's a misogynist 90% of the show, and I don't really care for that about him.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm not a Xander apologist, but I feel like the show doesn't treat his behavior as good behavior usually, though.
Well,
like,
I think
I don't think it holds
as
it accountable.
yes, but I also think he's like intended to be comedic relief, not in a way where like we're necessarily always laughing at him. Like, right, I think that's kind of the test is like, are we laughing at him or with him? And I think sometimes they expect us to be laughing with him, where it's
Sure.
not necessarily, I just, and it's on top of that, the fact that like, oh, he's like, all he could talk about is how obsessed he is with like Buffy and all these other
Mhm.
women. And that's where I get like very irritated with him. But there are times when he
Sure.
does have moments where he's a little bit, he's a hero where he gets to shine a little bit. It's just few and far between for me sometimes.
No, I understand. Listen, Buffy is a show with a lot of characters with flaws, and Xander will continue. This is a vague enough spoiler. Continue to have flaws. The end of season 2, there's a moment that divides the fandom about Xander. I won't go further than that, but it is a Xander. There is a division in the fandom based on a moment at the end of season 2, and I think our ability to forgive these characters depends a lot on how much we like them, because as a general spoiler, most of the characters on screen will have deep character flaws that will play out throughout the show.
Yeah.
That's not forgiving Xander. I think a lot of his behavior should be punished more by the show and is outdated. Obviously, the getting angry at Buffy for rejecting him, for example, at the end of season 1. So I'm not apologizing. I'm just, yeah, was curious. Anyways.
I think that like for me, from what I've heard, Joss Whedon sees himself in Xander, and with the climate of like how it was on set, especially towards women, I think like anything that Xander says that I deem inappropriate or doesn't hold up for me comes like essentially directly from the creator's mouth, which I kind of just like, I think like that's probably where like I take issue with it, because I know how the women were treated on set, and it's like, oh well, if he sees himself in him and Xander makes like a off-color joke, this is probably the same things that were coming out of the mouth of the creator in like behind the scenes. So that's kind of like how I picture it, and that's kind of where I get the ick surrounding it.
That makes a lot of sense. And it's hard. I don't know. I obviously is not time to go into it, but like how to interpret the show, knowing the abuse of Joss Whedon. I know it's a show with like a lot of incredible female writers in a time that were like Marty Knox, Jane Espenson, like wrote some of the best episodes of the show. But you're totally right. Yeah, that's a scary way to look at it.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we get into this scene with Buffy and Willow, and I love the scenes with these two characters, because to me, Sarah, like we talk about a lot of teen shows, and this feels like a real conversation that like you would have with your friend when you're going through this sort of thing, where it's like, I really like this boy, but he will not make a move. He will not kiss me, and I don't know what to do. Especially when you're Willow and you're a little insecure, you're a little inexperienced, right? Like, I find this to be so adorable and relatable, being that age and having those conversations.
It totally is. And I think like there's also the piece of it where it's like, well, she can make the moves. Well, she's already made the moves. Like, as much as like she's already done more than I would have ever done at 16, 17 years old towards a boy. So it would be nice if he would reciprocate a bit. And the fact that like she's like, I am ready to go to the next step. I'm ready to do, and I don't know what exactly in her mind constitutes as the next step. I'm assuming that they're kissing. I don't know if we're talking like handsy stuff or if we're talking about
kissed,
like,
so
they hadn't kissed once.
No, they kissed the first time this episode.
Oh my god,
that was the whole thing.
We can't even get a
16
kiss
now.
They're like babies, Sarah.
A kiss, not even a kiss. Okay, yeah, he needs to step up.
Yeah.
Willow has not gone to Jewish sleepaway camp. Willow, who is Jewish representation on the show.
Which I love. I think that's amazing.
Love it.
Yeah, no, that really excites me. I mean, Willow has not gone and snuck off to the boys' cabins at Jewish sleepaway camp like I did. I know that. But still, I mean, I totally feel for for her. I wish that he was making a step, especially, I don't know. I thought that they had kissed. I guess
No, they haven't done anything yet, and Willow's
That's
getting really
frustrating.
impatient about the whole thing. But what's interesting here, Hannah, is like she still seems a little bit hung up on Xander, or at the very least, she's still upset with him for the whole Cordelia secret. Because, and this is like a big moment for Willow when she says, "Oh, I'll give Xander a call. What's his number? Oh, yeah, 1-800 I'm dating a skanky hoe."
Willow
sick
has
burn.
Willow has some sassy lines. The thing is, Willow has like, and you see it in the pack a little, but Willow has like a lot of power and sass underneath all the shyness. And yeah. But can you blame her? No, she's 16, and it's not just a fantasy of her idea of Xander. I know Xander is a complicated character, but they've been best friends since like third grade. I mean, this is someone she's known and loved forever. So I don't know that like to her it can be washed away just because of even a fantastic person like Odd. It still exists for her.
Yeah. Well, and it's
Yeah.
also because it's Cordelia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a person who's bullied her. Her best friend, who she's had a crush on forever, is kissing her bully. That's like the worst thing that can happen to you at 15 or 16. Or I guess 7. How old did Buffy just turn? 17?
She just turned 6.
No, she just turned 17.
Oh, they're juniors,
She just turned
right?
17.
Yeah, they're juniors.
Yeah, they're juniors. My bad. At 17, I mean, that's heartbreak.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine if somebody was that was close to started dating somebody that bullied me, that would just be like a really big slap in the face. So I can understand that she feels like weird about this because it is weird. And also it's just like, okay, so like you had a crush on Buffy. Fine. She's gorgeous. She's Sarah Michelle Gellar. I understand. But then you have to go if I'm not even your second option. I'm like your like 100th option. It would just suck.
Yeah. And can we talk about how this was something I feel like, Sarah, we talked about being excited about last podcast was, oh, we can't wait for Buffy to find out about Zordy. And it happens off screen. I'm personally offended by this, that we did not get her first reaction to this news.
She doesn't seem that pressed about it.
I guess she has bigger issues, but
also don't you think? But don't you think, like, she's mentioned that she relates to Cordelia, like at her old school in LA, she was Cordelia. She's sort of in like TV terms, like her shadow self. Like, I don't think that Buffy has the pain of Cordelia the way Willow does. Like,
it's not Willow the pain, it's more the gossip. I wanted the gossip reaction, you know?
Yeah. Instead, we got her gossiping about random makeouts in the woods, which we'll get to. I hope I'm not. I promise you that this would be a long episode. I can't. Shoot me a look if it's too.
But speaking of Cordelia and Xander, they're at like this makeout point. Now, we didn't have, maybe I just wasn't invited to makeout point.
You were not invited to Makeout Mountain.
I feel like maybe it's because it's California and it's like there's plenty of like makeout points where you could go sit and look at like LA or something. But like I was never invited to any makeout points. And although I did hear a story once, I don't know why I'm whispering because my brother's certainly not listening to this. Apparently, I found out just a few years ago, I'm in my 30s. I found out just a few years ago that apparently one time my brother and his girlfriend, when they were teenagers, he like drove out somewhere, I don't know where, with her, and they were like making out, and he got stuck in the mud. And instead of being like a normal teenager and calling like a friend or something to help him out, he called my parents to help get his car out of the mud. And I'm like, what kind of moron are you? Like, you're supposed to be hiding this stuff from our parents, you know? Not
older brother or younger brother?
Older, yeah.
Okay, interesting.
He couldn't have called me. I had no idea any of this was happening. But yeah, I never got invited to makeout point. Sarah, did you ever go to a makeout point?
No. I think yes. Oh, okay.
Well, okay. So like I'm thinking like there was this like, it was like, okay, there was a train track, and then under the train or by the train track, there was an underpass, and it was like hilly.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to like envision it. That was like not like I did not drive anywhere to make out.
Okay. You just
But
sat
But
there.
you
and
made
made
out
out.
under the train tracks?
Yeah, essentially.
What state did you
On the
grow up
dark
in?
side of
Jersey.
town.
No, New
Jersey.
Jersey. New Jersey. Yeah. I also definitely made out in Lover's Lane.
What's
Okay.
Lover's Lane?
It's a place near a place. She visited me once at my parents' camp, and there's a like a little off the beaten path sort of like driving trail called Lover's Lane.
I
Yeah.
mean, it makes sense in high school where, I mean, not in Sunnydale. The parents are conspicuously absent sometimes.
Always.
But it does make sense that for high schoolers, there's nowhere to go. I also was not cool enough in high school to be making out. Sarah, I think you
No, I
won
wasn't. I wasn't.
this round. But no, it makes sense. You can't go home.
Yeah, you got to find a spot to make out, and like if you have a
Find-
car, and especially in this situation, right, where Zordy, it's like, well, we got to keep this hidden. Although it seems to be fairly out this episode, I will say. They're like pretty acting relationshipy in public.
Mhm.
So maybe
Yeah.
Cordelia isn't as pressed about this anymore.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. She's also like actively hanging out with the Scoobies all the time. So if she's
Yeah.
trying to hide the fact that she is friends or friends adjacent with the Scoobies, they're not doing a very good job. And as they make out, we see a wolfy figure in the background overlooking them. And yeah, this was that between that and the fact that they've referenced that there is a full moon tonight. This was our confirmation that there was werewolves, and then this is kind of where I figured out that it was Oz at kind of this point. Also, this werewolf is a little short, so
Well, we'll talk about the werewolf because obviously, listen, we'll rip the Band-Aid off. It's terrible. It looks like they got this costume at Party City. But like,
no,
I didn't care. I didn't care because we like the camp, Sarah. We like the campiness of Buffy. It didn't bother me that this outfit was ridiculous. But what did bother me, Hannah, was Xander,
Yeah.
who has issue with Oz. Oh, he's a senior. He's too attractive for Willow. Excuse me, sir. First of all, you're making out with a different girl, so don't go talking about Willow while you're making out with Cordelia. Second of all, you have no business commenting on anybody Willow wants to date.
I mean, I agree. He's also a 17-year-old boy who has mixed feelings about all of his friends.
Mhm.
It feels, yes, it's not great. But you see, Buffy is a show where the teenagers talk with the complete cleverness of an adult writer's room.
Yeah.
But they still act like teens. And this, I think, is him acting like a teenage boy. And that's not to excuse his behavior. It just feels like a teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know, Angel's 200. He had some time to mature.
He's allowed to talk
barely.
barely.
Barely mature, yeah.
Barely mature. But, you know, Oz is brilliant and mellow. You know, but Xander is a hormonal teenage boy with confused feelings about potentially both of his best friends.
Yeah.
I would be so mad if I was making out with somebody and they were just talking about other girls, and like Cordelia rightfully is like, look, if you're not talking about Willow, you're obsessing over about Buffy. Like, what am I doing here? Like what do you want? And then she hears some like creepy noises, and Xander kind of dismisses her, and then the werewolf starts like bugging out and jumping on the top of the car.
Yeah, this is the problem with what are those cars with the no
Convertibles in Sunnydale.
You could just a monster could punch a hole right through it.
You live in Sunnydale. Get a damn roof. Yeah.
Get a damn roof.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cordelia is a bully, but Xander is a bully to Cordelia. They are mean to each other.
And this is why I kind of like it. I don't know if this is a hot take, Hannah. I've been very pro Zordy pretty much since they started this whole thing, mostly because I really liked I love the enemies to lovers trope. Like, I just love it. And I love that
Hold on to your pants. This show is the best for enemies to lover.
Yes.
I'm not saying that this show is my sexuality, but just
it's not.
I'm not claiming it's not. So if you like enemies to lovers, this is the thing. I hope your other guests were super respectful of spoilers. I am too, but I come on, you gotta sprinkle some sugar.
No,
Just
that's the perfect amount
wait.
of the like just wait, because we get that a lot and it gets me like even more excited to watch more episodes.
All the listeners are like, I hope if you're listening and you've seen the show, which you said are a lot, are giggling. They can't wait for your enemy to lover experience with Buffy.
I just love it. And so I've been very pro Zordy. And like the next scene we get is like the Scooby's kind of looking at Cordelia's car. She's all upset. It's her dad's like fancy whatever the heck it is. And
she says daddy, which is peak rich girl in the 90s speak. I love it.
She has the like
calls him
sweater
daddy
around her like shoulders too.
Well, I love how she's in
outfits
mourning.
are chef's kiss.
They're so good.
What?
She's in
I
mourning.
love that she's in mourning. Like she has like her sunglasses on. She's like arms crossed. She's just like, oh, like another day where I could not have a normal day. Like all I wanted was to go shopping and make out and have everything like be normal. And I got attacked by a giant wolf man dog.
Yeah.
Like I just love it.
She is like snuggling into Xander too.
Well, yeah, she needs to feel protected.
Cordelia Chase is a fantastic character. She might have started as like quintessential mean girl, but you know, she's a fantastic character in TV.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody could play her besides Charisma Carpenter. Nobody could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of breaking down, okay, well, it's definitely a werewolf, blah, blah, blah. And okay, me reacting to there being werewolves in this episode is Giles. Reacting to there being werewolves. He's so excited. And they're like trying to figure out because, well, last night wasn't a full moon. Tonight is a full moon. So they're trying to figure out like, how does that work? Because for all we know, in every werewolf thingy we've ever seen, it's always full moon equals werewolf, not 3 days of werewolf time. You know, it's just full moon. So Giles is like, ooh, I get to read all my books.
Did we get any confirmed lore? Is it just like it's just like a 3-day cycle within the month?
Yeah, night before full moon, night after, bite causes it. Otherwise, a normal person at this point, that's the lore. Giles is giddy. Giles is also, now that, I'm in my 30s, Giles is just so cute.
I love
him. If you
him.
pay close attention, you can see occasionally Willow's crush on Giles.
Ooh.
So it's not like the kind of spoiler. It does, don't wait. They don't have a big romantic. They're not the enemies to lovers. But it is referenced much later. And if you pay really close attention, you can see.
Well, there is like this.
It's really cute.
This connection between them. Because Sarah and I have said that before. Like we've said Willow would make a great watcher if she eventually wanted to do that. Like, because they're always the ones that are like in the library researching, right? Like she's the hacker. Like they're always the ones kind of hunkering down with the books.
The 90s version of the hacker just typing in like monster into Google.
Yes, exactly.
It's
Google.
Great.
She's getting jacked in, okay? Like she knows what she's doing.
She's not getting jacked
if you're
in.
not plugged in, you're like plugged out. What was the line?
It's so stupid. I love it so much.
If you're not digital, you're dumb. I don't know. Those characters are the level of two-dimensional of Kane, which we haven't even got into because I could talk about Buffy for a year. I'll let you continue.
I don't know how they haven't had self-defense classes in Sunnydale yet, but now they've decided to institute them. So they're
not just see this in a different episode.
I feel like we did,
I
but
remember
they probably have weekly self-defense, Sarah, because there's so many baddies in Sunnydale. They're on Hellmouth, Sarah.
They would need it, yeah. So they all like kind of go up, and I do like that Willow is like, please, like for goodness sake, you are a normal girl. You have to just be a normal girl.
I disagree with this strongly, Sarah, and I'm so
Really?
sorry. But yes, she on Halloween shoved Larry into a vending machine. He knows she's strong. She's never pretended to be weak with him, to the point where when the girl in their group says, oh, we have someone else, and she goes, I'm in your group, he looks scared because she's beaten him up before. Yeah. So I'm not saying she should show her superpowers. Don't do a backflip and kill him. But she's never pretended to be a meek, girly girl. So the line feels weird. That was Xander's whole masculinity crisis in Halloween. Is that
I guess that's true because Cordelia has been talking for months about the fact that like Buffy randomly like hulks out and chokes people.
Yeah.
Like I feel as though there should be talk around the school that Buffy gets like a little aggro and starts like choking people out. But then why are people not asking questions?
I think the reason is, if I'm gonna like big brain this or like give them outs on this whole like give them excuses, I think it's because Buffy is a part of the Scoobies, who are like, they're kind of the losers, right? And so like I feel like the losers just don't get gossiped about. No one's paying attention to them enough to want to gossip about them. Maybe that's just my experience.
I will say that you both are on to things. I think the show will acknowledge the school's perception of the Scoobies at some point down the road.
Yeah. And where's the freaking principal, Sarah? We haven't seen him in a hot minute, and I have eyes on him still.
Yeah, he had to go back to his government
He's
job.
funny.
He's kicking kids somewhere. That's what he's off doing. He hates children.
He's kicking puppies.
He probably is.
He's
awful.
A great. What's his name? Oh my god,
Snyder? Is that it?
Snyder is a fantastically written side character.
Yeah, he's horrible, and I love it.
Yeah, no, the other principal got eaten by the pack.
Oh my god, too much, too soon. We can't bring up the pack again. It's too soon. I hated that episode.
I know. Never bring it up. I listened to you, Hannah.
I hate it so
I've done
much.
my research. I wanted to be someone that knew you guys somewhat on your
Okay. Yeah, Jess got to bow out of that, but I didn't get to bow out about the freaking bugs.
Oh, the eggs.
The
eggs. Yeah,
terrible.
bad egg.
You don't want to watch a giant bug impregnate virginal men?
No, I don't. I really don't like swarms. I really
Yeah, just
really
wait till go fish.
Oh.
Anyways.
So Buffy flips Larry. He like grabs her butt. She flips him over. It's like, I love
sexual
this.
assault, much deserved.
Yeah, take it. And again, the show is trying to get us to believe it's Larry because, I got bit by a dog and I have stitches, and I'm going to be mean to Teresa, who ends up dead later this episode. So they're really like putting out all the breadcrumbs for the dummies like me. Like, yeah, eat those breadcrumbs up. We've tricked you. You know, I fall for it. It's fine.
You're all for it.
Love that they gave them self-defense. I tried jujitsu recently, and self-defense is really hard. Well, the first 2 classes I got paired with the teacher because I was the only girl, but then a girl showed up, and I swear I came back to my boyfriend and I said, I got beat up for an hour straight. I'm so bad at fighting.
Oh, no.
She kept kicking me, and I kept being like, how is she doing this? And the instructor's like, because you keep running away. Apparently, you have to circle. You shouldn't just run away. That's how you get kicked. I don't know.
I'm a flighter, not a fighter.
Me too. At one point, she was like, you have to fight back. And I was like, how?
No, you're hurting me.
I would have done terribly in Sunnydale. I would have died season 1. I'd be a vampire by then.
Just like all the other teenagers, you would have died off.
Yeah, a lot of them die, right?
Yeah. In the next scene, Willow is wearing like a Bambi shirt.
She is. They love to dress her like a 12-year-old. They really do. It's their favorite thing.
It's explored throughout the series. I don't remember the Bambi shirt, but her wardrobe is very important.
I loved the Halloween when she got like, I'm sexy Willow. Like, I get to be cool
Oz
Willow.
noticed her first in the Eskimo outfit. It's so cute.
Terrible.
Okay.
So
makes my heart warm. Like, I know them. I know I don't know them.
Just love them.
You might.
We have a couple dates.
Well, I have actually met David Boreanaz in person.
Really?
I
actually convention or what?
No, I've never been to a convention. I did a men's health article on he's in some army show now, and I did an article where I got to work out with him for an hour, and it was so weird. He was so lovely, but his team refused to give me the pictures because they thought that we wanted to write like a Survivor they didn't give me any of the pictures with the 2 of us in it because they were worried I was trying to write like a Survivor, this army show hybrid article. But other than that, I have all these pictures with David Boreanaz. I had to ask him about his new show, and all I wanted to do was ask him about Buffy.
Did you get to ask any questions about Buffy?
I think I got like 1 or 2 in. I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but I like SEAL Team 6. I'm making up an army show now. Apologies if David Boreanaz is listening to our episode an hour in. Apologies that I don't remember your army show. But it was very exciting for me.
It is
But
exciting.
I've never met Willow or Oz.
Would love to.
Anyways.
So yeah, we're in the library and they're talking about like Giles has done his research, right? So we find out it's the very typical werewolf lore. When you turn into a werewolf, you basically are just animalistic, no conscious, you're predatory, you're aggressive, yada yada, the huge. And I did like the typical male, from Buffy, and it's like, yeah, Buffy, that's right, call him out. And Xander's like, oh, me, I'm hurt, my feelings are hurt because I'm a man. Xander.
She's had a rough time with men lately. We just got off Surprise and Innocence. Like, let's
cut her some slack. And so Xander wants to use silver bullets, but Giles, being just so kind, says, no, there's still humans like underneath all of that. So we need to figure out, how we're going to like trap one, whatever. We're going to figure out how to cure them of this. And so Giles and Buffy go to makeout point. just so casual.
She brings her metaphorical dad to the makeout spot.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Her social life is so fucked ever since Angel became Angelus. It's so depressing. She could have had it all.
She could have had it all in LA, and then she burned down the gym trying to kill vampires.
Why do you gotta burn down the gym?
Yeah. But unfortunately the night does not go as planned because Buffy gets trapped in a net by this man Kane, and apparently he's some werewolf killer. He like collects their teeth and wears them as a necklace because he's nasty.
If you didn't like Larry, hold your boots because we have someone worse. This character is so annoying. Like, I genuinely feel like, and I'll get to the other structural thing that I want to ask you guys as new watchers. I genuinely feel like you could take this character out and have just as much tension. Are they going to get to Oz before he hurts someone? Like, did he already kill someone? And just have the characters we love talk. And instead, we get this two-dimensional caricature who everything out of his mouth is just like a stereotype of misogyny. Like it was written by, it's just the worst character. And he's so boring because of it. And maybe you love Kane and the role he plays, but not him himself. But like, I found that they could have had the tension without this character.
I mean, unless we're going to see him more often, he's going to come back and keep trying to go after Oz. Like, I really did not see the point in having this random werewolf catcher that was really there just to devalue Buffy and what Buffy does. We get that enough day to day for Buffy. It seemed a little random. So like I said, unless like this is going to be his gig and he's going to keep trying to be here until he eliminates Oz, which I can see, I didn't really totally see the point in his character.
I agree especially because I feel like if the conflict we're trying to discuss on the show is like the moral quandary of, do we kill the werewolves with silver bullets or do we try to help them and cure them? We had kind of already had that with Xander, and we could have just bumped that up a little bit rather than bring in this rando who's, like you said, a caricature of misogyny. Why do we need this guy? Like, it doesn't, especially because I feel like it opens up more questions than we're gonna get answered, right? Of like, okay, if this guy knows about werewolves, what else does he know? Like, does he know more about what's on Hellmouth? Like, how many other people are out there hunting werewolves? I wish they had kept it. I'm all for world building, but it didn't really, he wasn't additive in any way way we hadn't already seen or could have put on a different character like Xander,
Yeah, when we get to the next part of the structural thing, I'm going to pitch you guys what I think. Because
I love it.
Because to me, it's like two easy fixes for a better episode. But for now, I'll just say, like, you're a girl. He's an ivory hunting, werewolf killing. He encourages Giles to be out there making out with a high schooler. he's like, they threw a dartboard of all the worst things he could be and just put it there with no redemption. It's really, it's worse than the show.
I latched on to the ivory hunting as well, especially working in antiques. There's the ivory, when we come across it and people try to sell us stuff and it has ivory in it's illegal by law. We cannot purchase nor buy it. It's essentially like in a way devalued because you can't really legally exchange it. There's a lot of, thankfully, protectors around ivory these days. So
so he's the worst.
He's the worst.
We get a quick scene with Teresa, who we met a little bit earlier, again having a little bit of a moment with Larry. She's running down the street and bumps into none other than Angelus. Angelus. That's how you pronounce it, right?
Angelus.
Thank you. I keep doing
Angelus.
Angelus. And
you could call him like Naughty Angel. No, don't call him that. That's
Naughty Angel.
She runs into Naughty Angel.
And again, like I love Angelus. Like, I just think he's so much more interesting than Angel. And like, we get him doing the like, oh, it's a little scary out here at night, isn't it? And oh, you go to school with Buffy, don't you? And then, obviously he's gonna kill her or like bite her or turn her, whatever. I don't know that I understand how all of this works, because I think in a lot of vampire lore in different shows, it works a little differently in terms of like, if you kill them, do they come back as a vampire? I guess they do, unless you stake them.
So you have to drain them of their blood and then almost to the point of death and then feed them your blood.
Got it.
How it
so
works
that's what
in
he
Buffy.
did. Okay.
Yeah. So that's how Buffy lore works. I think this is an okay point to pitch my little
Yes, let's do it.
You guys are new watchers. It is revealed pretty quickly that Angel kills Teresa. Oz is the werewolf. Oz thinks he killed Teresa. I know it's a little bit skip ahead. We'll get there. It frustrates me that we are shown that Oz didn't kill Teresa. I feel like when Buffy, maybe I should pitch this a little later, but I'll pitch it now and then we can review it. I feel like when Buffy puts the pieces together that Teresa might be dead from something else, that's when the audience should be like, oh shit, oh my God, it's Angel. Because then it creates this tension of, oh my gosh, similar to when Buffy murdered the robot stepdad guy, where we think, oh my God, she may have killed someone. That would leave us with the tension of, did Oz kill someone? Therefore, should Buffy actually take Oz out? And instead, all of the tension is deflated because we know exactly who killed her. We know that Oz didn't. We know who the werewolf is. So as new watchers, I guess my question to you is, if they move this scene, and it might mean that David Boreanaz like sits out an episode, imagine thinking, oh my God, Oz may have killed someone, only to in that moment, oh my God, no, it's a vampire, thank goodness, almost. Like, would you have felt more emotionally intertwined in the episode had that been the case? That's my question. That's my big question for this episode.
I think
me, I think yes.
Yeah. So like, I don't really think I think you're right. Like, I think that I was a little like uninterested in the whole Angel of it all being the one that made the kill, because I know he's bad. He's going to do bad things. I know that he wants to fuck with Buffy a little bit because he literally, that's his kind of his specialty. So I think like I just like didn't really care, I guess. I don't know. And maybe I would be more invested if it was more of a mystery of like,
or a surprise where she's like, oh my God, tell Angel, like Angel says hi. You were like, oh my God. I feel like then you're like, oh my God, it's Angel. Right?
Yeah.
Like a surprise with Buffy.
I think it would have been more impactful to have it as, did Oz just kill someone? Right? Like, we're with Oz and we don't know if Oz has killed someone. And then to have it be the reveal that it was a vampire bite, I think they could have easily done that. They could have just hidden the vampire bite, and then she comes alive as a vampire, and Buffy has to stake her, or
And
Xander
your
stakes
heart
her,
sinks
whatever.
with Buffy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and when she says the Angelus, says hi or whatever.
Which I know we're getting to. I didn't know where to
No, but I
pitch
think
this
that
thing.
makes it's a good point to pitch it here. I think that makes sense. I think either way kind of works, but your structural change gives us a little bit more of that like heart pounding moment, especially when Oz is a character that so far I assume the majority of the audience is very in on. He's
Loves.
very sweet, he's very
Yeah.
innocent, and to have us question whether or not, obviously it's not his fault, he was a werewolf, but like question
Yeah.
whether or not he turned into like this massive monster and
Well,
killed someone.
That's a good question too. You said it's not his fault. He's a werewolf. If he had killed someone, that would ask the question, when you like, is Angel responsible for Angelus's actions? Would Oz
Yeah.
have been responsible for werewolves' actions? It's a question that the show will ask a lot. That's my pitch. You guys are confirming it. Because I'm like, as new watchers, I'd be like, okay, they told us everything. Now we need Kane to come in and wave his gun, or like, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel
Yeah.
like that. And again, I love this show. So I'm only, you can't criticize Surprise and Innocence because they're perfect. So you get to this episode, the one afterwards,
Yeah,
and you're like,
like,
there's still
oh.
some season one
Yeah.
flaws in it that I think this is one of them.
No, I agree with you. I think
Anyways.
that would have worked better probably.
Is it that, I think technically speaking, we know that David Boreanaz is a main character. He's in the opening credits. He is contractually obligated to
Right.
be in X amount of episodes and have X amount of lines. So we have to throw him in there.
I
You
think
know what
we
I
could
mean?
have we could have done, I think there could have used him in a different way though, right? Like, oh, when she says like Angel says hi, or Angelus says hi, whatever, maybe he's like looking in a window watching the scene happen. I don't know. There's a way that you could make it happen where he's still like his face appears.
Or
live.
if there's another night where they have to hunt the werewolf, maybe at some point we have Angel and he's like gonna kill another person to send to Buffy, but then the werewolf runs in. This is a really off the
No, but I think you could do it where it's like, if it's about his screen time, I think that's an easy thing to fix.
We just have an Angel poster in the back of every scene.
Just his face.
But anyways, like you're saying, he stalks Teresa because he has an affinity for. As Spike gets annoyed more and more, he refuses to kill Buffy. He seems to be into the torture.
Yeah, he loves to torture Buffy. And then we get like such a little fabulous little mini scene here of Willow and Cordelia kind of like having a
Love
little
it.
It's
Love
so great.
it.
We've needed this. We've honestly needed this, and I'll say
Yes.
why. Because Sarah,
Yes.
Cordy really just kind of suddenly was a Scooby, right? Instead of suddenly Seymour, it's suddenly Scooby. And it's like all of a sudden she's in this group. And it really has kind of felt, in my opinion, like how did she end up here? And we haven't seen, there have been a lot of moments of like, she helps, right? She has like this, she has a different set of skills that she brings to the Scoobies, but we haven't always seen like genuine friendships with her and the other Scoobies. Obviously, she has this like romantic thing happening with Xander, but none of the girls
little friendship
really.
with Buffy.
A little bit.
A little like at the prompt, like she's like, being hot has its downsides.
Yes.
Remember that beautiful speech?
Yes, but not with Willow. And so having this scene, I felt like moved the needle in the right direction for like Cordelia being a member of the group. And also, I'm here for when the girls want to get together and bitch about Xander. Like, I'm always here for it. And I just really appreciated Cordelia confiding in Willow and being like, ugh, Xander's always talking to like Buffy this, Willow that. Like, ugh, I'm so annoyed with it.
And they can find that connection together, that they can both like kind of vent about Xander and Xander doing the things. I think that this makes a lot of sense because we know that Cordelia has not had a lot of genuine friendships. I think that she even talked about that at one point.
I think that was in the
earlier
dance
this
episode
season.
Hannah was just talking about. I think so.
Yeah. So like I think it makes a lot of sense for her to be opening up to Willow because she doesn't feel the pressure to be cool in front of Willow.
Yeah.
So she can kind of be her most genuine self with her.
It's true.
I agree completely. The Passion of the Nerd YouTube channel I mentioned at the top, I remember watching his video about phases, and he's like, I don't get this scene. Why would these two be talking? And I'm like, you haven't been a high school girl who's been
Exactly.
dealing with
Yep.
boys. I feel like it makes so much sense. And also, I think Willow, I don't know the exact line, says something like, yeah, it's like I'm not even here. Like, they almost just are with each other in that moment from necessity. Like they're dealing with the same people.
Yeah, nothing binds
and-
people together like
No.
hatred of a common thing, you know?
Yeah, and Cordelia and Buffy will like continue to have moments of growth together, but I think it is important. I think this having a scene with Willow specifically, and yeah, it makes total sense. Nothing felt odd about it.
Yeah, I loved it. And of course, they get interrupted by a werewolf crashing through the ceiling and everybody has to leave. They were in the bronze, so everyone has to leave the bronze.
I love your guys' commentary on the bronze. Like, what is this underage cockroach place?
We're still
It
trying
made
to
me
figure it
laugh.
out, really. I mean, I also think like it was because like the Kane guy, who was like, yeah, like werewolves like to hang out in like dark, seedy places where teenagers hang out. It's like, yes, and every other monster that ever comes to Hellmouth, yes, all of them like to hang out in a dark, seedy place. To be honest with you, the bronze should probably just be shut down at this point.
Too many bad things have happened there.
I mean, all of Sunnydale should be shut down.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
We evacuated it.
A cool thing about the Bronze, though, is like a lot of like indie bands of the time, I think, play at the Bronze,
Yeah.
like in different episodes. But other than good music, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's not great. So Buffy goes into the bronze and she has like chains she wants to try to capture the werewolf, but unfortunately he's too strong. He knocks her into some drums, jumps out a window and escapes. And then we get Kane back. Oh, you let it get
Ugh.
away. Blah, blah, blah. I hate him.
You don't have a dick. But he's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Oh, trying to do a man's job. Oh, he's the worst.
Rights of werewolf. Honestly, I bet right now you could write 5 lines that are just at the same level of things he said. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. It's
it's
just
a roulette of misogyny.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the werewolf sees like a pool of blood and goes to inspect it, and of course he comes across Teresa, who's been bitten, and Angelus, who like
Ugh.
snarls at him. And this is probably the most egregious moment for the actual look of the werewolf outfit.
Oh yeah. This is where I took screenshots and I was just
Oh no.
yeah, I was like, I literally wrote like this. I'm gonna tell my kids that this was Edward and Jacob. But
Oh my
just, like,
God.
the two of them snarling at each other with the prosthetic makeup
bad.
and like
Yeah.
it is a little funny.
It's so funny.
I wish that they had them if they had the two of them in one shot. Oh man, the screenshots I would take
The memes,
for
yeah.
but no, I only got it separate. I mean, honestly, the werewolf, like his underbite literally looks like my Shih Tzu. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this kind of looks like Belle.
Yeah.
But that's the thing about especially early Buffy seasons, but even later, like Buffy, it's so much like the beauty comes from the characters and not from the special effects.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like I recently rewatched Firefly and it's so beautiful. Like even the goofiness is beautiful. But Buffy, especially, I mean, you know, you guys watch season 1, you know what we're dealing with here in terms of like the
And that's
camp.
never really
It is-
bothered me, honestly. Like, I think
No,
it's just
it's
part of the
fun.
fun. It's part of the fun in watching
Yeah.
something that's pretty old. Is that
Oh my
sometimes
gosh.
Sarah
me
just
that-
brought up the picture. It looks so
Yeah.
bad.
Tell me that this
Wait.
is like not my 12-year-old dog.
Can I ask to see your 12-year-old dog, please, too? Because that
Yeah,
is
I mean,
important
I'll have
Point
to-
of comparison.
for the accuracy of the podcast.
Yeah, I'll have
Okay,
to find. I only have cute pictures of her, but when you see her teeth, like those are her teeth. Oh,
so
no.
camp aside, I also am annoyed with this scene again for the tension. Like, let's say they showed Angel stalking Teresa. There could still be some mystery. Did Oz do it? But this scene hammers in Oz is innocent when I feel like we would have liked that release with the characters discovered.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And look at that. It's so funny. I was just at someone's house when they were watching Harry Potter. The kid was watching Harry Potter, and that werewolf is genuinely terrifying.
Yeah.
Like the Lupin werewolf. I mean, I know it's a different time and different amounts of money, but I was like, yeah, the difference.
We've just come so far. Right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I mean, Darla had a lisp, remember? That's what Vamp Phase was season 1. She had a lisp. She was the coolest character and had a lisp.
Yeah.
Oh
Darla
my
was the
God.
best.
Yeah.
I miss
It's
Darla.
a little unfortunate, but it was definitely funny. I give you that. I liked it for the comedy value.
The snarling was
Um,
great.
It was interesting, like, why wouldn't they want to work together? We're both bad. We both want to kill.
Because it's the Edward and Jacob of it all, Sarah.
Why
They're always going to be
can't
against each other.
vampires and werewolves get together? Why can't they break
You
bread?
know there's like porn and fanfic out there all about werewolves and vampires getting together.
I know that.
Is this a genuine question, or are we?
Yes.
Because I think in this show, werewolves are not like Giles said, they're kind of instinctually animalistic. They're not really thinking beings, whereas vampires are aware beings. Like obviously, if you don't have a soul, you don't have like a conscience, but vampires want things. They Spike and Drusilla, they can love. It's selfish love because they don't have a soul, but they can love. Whereas werewolves in this show are closer to, I'm so sorry, just like the pack. They just sort of jump.
Animals. They're just animals.
They're animals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They kill the principal. I mean,
Yeah.
Interesting even that the pack was more based on their human selves than even a werewolf, because in the pack Xander went after what he wanted when he wasn't hypnotized by hyenas, whereas the werewolf seems kind of random. Like the werewolf's just like a rabid creature.
Yeah, he loses himself. I'm trying to think of other because werewolves haven't had. There was Teen Wolf, but it hasn't had like the witch treatment, the vampire treatment. We always get like a era of these like fantasy people. So it's like I'm trying to think of what we like in what other media we've seen werewolves besides, I'm thinking, like I said, Teen Wolf, never watched that, and I'm thinking of course Harry Potter.
Vampire Diaries, they have a whole wolf.
Oh, do they?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's pick things up with Buffy and Giles in the car. Giles fell asleep, which who can blame him? It's the middle of the night, but the sun is about to come up and they have not found the werewolf. And then they hear over the radio that there is an incident that has something to do with animal mutilation and that they have found Teresa's body. And so they think like, oh my gosh, this is all our fault. This is a werewolf. Buffy feels very responsible because if they had killed the werewolf, probably Teresa is still alive. At least they think so at this moment. And I like stuff like this, Sarah, where we feel the burden that Buffy feels, like the weight of the responsibility of being the Slayer, and how if she ever fails, like lives are lost, so, and obviously Buffy's also going through like a lot right now, so, but it just does feel like, I think that I feel like she does a really good job at portraying just like the sadness that Buffy has right now in her life.
Yeah, give us the stakes. I mean, I think that was another issue that I had with season 1, where it just felt like that's kind of where the joke, like teenagers are disposable, because we would be killing off people every single episode and they're like, oh, that guy's dead, it's okay. You know what I mean? And I definitely like it better to see Buffy caring that a classmate of hers has died. Obviously I disagree that it was her fault. Obviously we find out very shortly that this was a vampire bite and not a werewolf bite, which also makes me wonder, like, what is Oz doing in werewolf form if he's not killing anything? He's just like jumping on, maybe because he's like a baby werewolf.
He's a
and not like
baby.
the
He's not
not the
trained.
toddler werewolf like his cousin, like an actual like first timer.
Novice.
But he's not doing
Such a good
shit.
question. Such a good question.
Doing anything. He's just running around jumping on cars. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he's really acrobatic, but not brutal. Yeah, no, Kane, for as annoying as he is, Kane was like, you know, if he gets away, this is on you. And she's like, I think about that every night, you know?
Yeah.
Sink your teeth into the responsibilities she has.
Yeah. Also, not to make a dumb comparison, but I'm going to. Like, if anyone watched the Hungry Games, Alaska's Great Big Bear like competition or whatever, is like this recent thing that came out on Peacock. They talked about there was this one bear, and her name was Boldface, and she was like 5 years old, which is pretty young in terms of bears, because they live to be like 25, 30, at least these kinds of bears. And she was trying to get salmon for her little baby cub, but she was still like a pretty young bear. And so she doesn't really have the technique down. You know, she's stomping all in the water, like scaring the fish away. And that kind of feels to me like what Oz is doing, because he's a novice werewolf. Like, he doesn't have the technique. So he's just running and smashing and growling and not doing a great job.
Just running into walls, going to the Bronx, because that's where Dingo's
Punching
Ain't My
through
Baby
cars,
plays.
you know.
I'm just really confused.
Okay, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of low on bears, by the
What?
way.
Why?
Yeah.
What did they do to
I don't
you?
know. I just don't think I like them very much.
I don't understand this. I love bears. They're so cute.
Kind of low on bears.
Oh,
Hannah, do you?
Jess,
are
have you?
pro
Am I
bear?
pro? Well, Jess, you sound like someone who doesn't live in a place where bears cause mayhem.
I mean, I live in upstate New York, so like, if the
Okay.
more rural you are, like, there's certain, I know people who have had like bears in their yards. So like,
Oh, okay.
I understand that. I just always feel like they were here first. Like, we're living in their area, so like, you
Totally.
kind of
Everything
have to-
else.
But
you know?
my parents are in Colorado. They had a
Oh.
bear break in, steal the bacon, and leave. Like, it's almost comical. Yeah. My mom, she was so concerned about the piano, because she has my grandmother's piano, and she was like,
Yeah.
did it touch the piano? And it
Yeah.
was like, no, it just ate bacon.
Yeah, I just like watching the videos of like bears testing out people's trampolines and like going in their pools and like doing silly stuff, you know? They're just bears
bear
doing
over
things.
man, but still bears can be scary.
Oh, bears can be scary. I don't want to be face to face with a bear. But yeah, we get, speaking of silly, then we get this ridiculous scene of Oz calling his aunt where he's like, hey, is Jordy a werewolf? And like, how long has that been happening? Okay, yeah, thanks, love to Uncle Ken. It's just
So Oz. It's so well written. It's so funny.
It's so
I
casual.
love that you thought Jordy was an adult cousin. To me, this read like, hey, does your toddler turn into a werewolf a little? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, okay. It's so Oz's casual reaction to the world of Buffy, like
Yes.
during surprise.
Always
like,
casual.
Huh. All right. Yeah. It's so, but it's needed in
Yeah.
the world where everyone is, you talked about Bangel speak, like Buffy Angel speak, which the show itself will make fun of because it's just so soap opera heavy handed. And in
yes.
contrast, like, you can make it up, like the world is ending, but Oz is just so fun and chill.
Do you think that it's like just mostly Seth Green improv?
I feel like it has to be more. I feel like
I
Joss
think
Whedon
it's
is
more
like,
scripted.
yeah, it's more
You know?
scripted.
Based on the showrunner, I would say, being a bit of the reputation of many bad things, as we've talked about, but also perfectionist.
Yeah.
He would do like last hour rewrites. There are some writers that only have a few Buffy writing credits, and their episodes are paired with Joss Whedon because he would just take their scripts and rewrite them. My guess would be scripted,
Interesting.
but I don't know.
I do think, though, this could be a situation where, and Oz hasn't been on the show very long, but I know this happens a lot in TV where it's like once the actor is in that role, they kind of find the actor's strengths as well and sometimes write those into the character
For
a little
him.
bit. So I
Yeah.
feel like maybe they could be leaning into that as well more than they maybe originally thought because he's so good at it.
I'm thinking of this right now, and it's probably an inappropriate comment in the middle of the podcast, but there is a mirror episode, maybe season 4, called Wild at Heart. And I'm wondering, can I be on that one? Can I be your resident when Oz has a werewolf episode?
Wild at Heart.
I think it's a season 4 episode.
There's Where
Can
the
I put it
Wild
in
Things Are. Could it be that one?
No, not that one. No, trust me, not that
She's
one.
like, don't put me on that one.
Don't talk about that
no.
one. Wild at it's season 4. I found it.
Season 4, Wild at Heart. For those listening who know Where the Wild Things Are, they know.
I know the book Where the Wild Things Are.
I'm good. Where the Wild Things Are, or the other episode you mentioned is one of the lowest rated in the series, I believe.
Fun.
You can track which ones are rated. No. I just feel like this is like I'd love to bookend your Oz werewolf experience. No, I'm sorry to have spoiled what an episode.
I will have forgotten by then, probably. Honestly,
Right.
it's very far away.
I'm focused.
So after this news, right, Oz just kind of has this like blank look on his face. We follow him walking through the hallway in the school the next day. Obviously, there's a lot on his mind. And he immediately comes in to talk to the Scoobies and is like, what happened last night? What happened? And they tell him like, oh, it's Teresa. Someone got her. And he's like, you could see he's obviously devastated. They all think it's because he was close.
Himself.
Yeah. And they all think it's because he was
we
close to
don't think
Teresa.
that. And it's a shame.
It is a shame. Yeah. And so they're like, well, we all have one more night. And this is news to Oz. He's like, what? Another night? And they're like, yeah, we have one more night because it's, full moon in the middle, one on either side. So we have some time. And Xander, we get, again, another reference to the pack with Xander being like, oh, I'm an expert because I know what it's like to crave the taste of fresh meat. And I love Buffy calling him out and being like, actually, it's canon that you said that you didn't remember that, as we all were thinking.
Did you see Giles behind him who knows Xander remembers it?
Yeah.
Going, okay, boy. You want Buffy to remember that you tried to...
I once again, another really good call out that is like, oh, we're referencing this. Like, it was just like, I just liked the call outs from the previous season.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so Xander is trying to I don't know. He's trying to get into the mindset. It's a whole stupid thing. And he's like, it's so obvious. And of course, Oz looks scared because he thinks he's figured out it's him. But he's like, it's Larry. Of course it's Larry. So he goes off to confront Larry. And everyone else is like, okay, Willow's going to hack the school system, look at the school files and see.
AKA just Google the school roster.
Just Googling away. And so that's when she asks like, oh, Oz, are you okay? And he seems a little distant, right? Like Willow offers like, hey, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the library. You want to hang out? You want to help me? And of course it hurts her feelings when he's like, no, I gotta go. But like, obviously, Hannah, if he knows he's going to turn into a werewolf, he's like, I don't want to be near Willow. Gotta get out of here.
Sure. I think the sweetest part of that whole scene is Buffy watching, because Oz and Willow are new, but Buffy and Willow have this deep friendship. In innocence, Willow was the first one to sort of seem to understand what Buffy was going through. Yes. And once again, like Buffy is looking at Willow, unlike maybe like Gilmore Girls, this is very much a two-sided friendship where they both reciprocate empathy and understanding. And so that look from Buffy in the doorway of the library, I feel like that's the part I remember.
Yeah.
Where she just,
she feels for her. And like, she's being defensive of her friend as well. Like, she is fully like, oh, he is not treating you the way that you deserve to be treated in this moment. And I like that she's like ready to be like on the defense for her friend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she might not be mad about Xander and Cordelia, but she's almost ready to defend Willow's feelings on it. Like, she's very much in her friend's corner. Which
I love. I think that one of the things that I feel like we haven't talked a ton about on the podcast really is like, I love that while the writing is incredible, and like you said, Hannah, sometimes these characters talk as if they're older than they actually are. What feels extremely real is the friendships. Like, it feels a lot like when you're that age. Like, because you have to think about it when you're that age. Like, obviously, as you get older, like, your relationships change just because you're different people, and there's a lot when you're an adult, there's just a lot more going on in your life. Like, you have a lot more you're responsible for. When you're a kid, 90% of your life feels like it revolves around your friends. And I think that, like, that feels true in Buffy in a way that doesn't always feel that way in other teen dramas.
I think too, like, Buffy's whole thing is there's one Slayer, one girl in all the world. I mean, Kendra aside, there's one Slayer, and it seems like, from what we've heard, the Slayers get brought up, rebirthed often, which means Slayers, as we've talked, they referenced in season 1, don't have a long expiration date. But Buffy is a unique Slayer in that she has friends, she has a team. And so not only are, like, friendships important in that age, but I think in this show, the idea of a Slayer with friends, like the Slayer plus the Scoobies, is an important part of the show. That she's one of the first Slayers that have sort of like not just a watcher and the sort of patriarchal, like, Watchers Council, which will be deeply explored in the show. And I'm excited to hear your thoughts on as you guys watch the show, but she has a team, and this is her team, and they all represent something in her, right? Which will also be explored in the show.
Yeah. It's like, it's a very early found family story, which is really fun.
The
'cause obviously
Scoobies.
the parents are never around. So
Especially Oz's parents this episode.
I was very upset by this. I was like, what is happening? But before we get there, Xander confronts Larry. He meets him in the locker room, as one does. And he starts to, like, be like, I know your secret, Larry. And it's very, this is very common, right? In, like, sitcoms and tropes where it's like one person says, I know the thing about you, only to get the person to reveal something completely different. And Xander says, like, no, I know I've been there before. I know what's going on. And Larry says, basically comes out of the closet and says that he's gay. And so now he assumes Xander is gay as a result of the thing he just said, which in the 90s is like comedy gold. And nowadays it's like, I just feel bad for Larry. And Xander is acting like kind of an asshole because he thinks it's like, oh, it's this big shameful thing and all that,
Yeah, I wasn't very impressed by this scene. It felt like something that we've seen a million times before. So there's not much to say about it. Because Xander then acts like, I don't know.
He's worried that Larry's going to tell people he's gay, basically.
Yeah, he's like
totally
grossed out by the whole situation, which grosses me out. So
I have a couple thoughts on the scene.
Please.
First of all, I feel like Xander is the kind of guy, and this is part joke, but, like, he votes for gay marriage, but, like, makes a lot of weird jokes at a gay wedding. Like, he's not.
Yes.
He's got a discomfort. This scene, and maybe this is a weird story. It reminds me. So I'm bisexual. I'm a queer person, and I identified as straight in high school. Even though I'm from a town that's very liberal and very open, and it wasn't the 90s for people listening. It was like I went to high school
in the aughts, right?
The aughts, yeah. I think I said 2010, but that's when I started college. So it was like 2006 to 2010. But very liberal high school, like a national, a day of silence, and then a coming out day. Like, it was not the thing. Yeah, it was a very, we did Romeo and Juliet with two guys. The Westboro Baptist Church came and, like, protested our school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So for me to be in the closet was my own issue. But I was more confused about, like, how bisexuality worked. I was like, well, if I'm attracted to women, then what does that mean about these crushes on guys? But I had a girl, it was my senior year. I did an improv show, and she was like, good job on your improv show. And mind you, on my Facebook, it said I was straight. And then she goes, my mom thinks you're gay. Are you gay? On my public Facebook wall.
What?
And so I acted very calmly and rationally, as you do. I deactivated my Facebook and disappeared.
Going back to the fight or flight, we fly.
We flew away.
Incredible. And just left this earth. Yeah.
So, I won't say her last name, but Sophie, if you're listening, when my whole Facebook got deleted after you asked that, maybe that gave you the answer. This scene just reminded me of sort of my own internal like panic flight response, and I get that it's a stereotype. It was done as a gag. I get that Xander's discomfort with gay and like people thinking he's gay has like not aged well. I will say, as like a closeted queer kid in the early aughts, that like I do the sort of energy and drama. It just reminded me of my own. Listen, being outed after an improv show on your Facebook is different than being like captain of the football team when the kid you've bullied comes to you. But I've had my experience in this story.
I mean, like, I thought it was nice that like Larry was like, I can feel like I can finally talk to somebody, and like, thank you for listening to me, and maybe this is why I like beat you up all those times, because I can see it in you too. It's like he got very internal, but Xander was just acting like an asshat. But what else is new? It's fine.
Yeah.
I would have liked it better if Xander was just like, kind of pivoted and was like supportive of Larry in this situation. That would have impressed me. Then I would have been like, oh, look at you, Xander, just being there for the guys. That would have been cool.
I was just gonna say, I like how later in the episode we see that now that Larry has gotten this off of his chest, like he's told somebody, he's confided in somebody, that he's changed, and he's like, a girl's books get knocked down, right? Because they're trying to do the trick on her to like grab her ass when she bends down to pick them up, and he like picks them up for her and gives them to her. It's like, we love to see it,
We love to see it. I think Xander is at his worst when he's like, as a 17-year-old boy, dealing with his masculinity, especially in a show where the women, I guess, not all of them right now, but the women are more powerful than him. Yeah. And it's not an excuse. And it's like you said, it might be a showrunner projecting inappropriate behaviors. But I do think that like for Xander, his masculinity seems to be his deepest insecurity at this point in the show. And not that sexuality and masculinity means something, but to him it does. So I think his reaction is because it highlights his insecurity and like his feelings of masculinity. Like he already feels like he's not a masculine figure. And so for people to think he's gay, which he, the character, not me, associates with a comment on his masculinity, I think creates a panic in him.
Yeah.
I sound like a Xander apologist. I'm not.
You're not. No. You're
examining him as well.
Yeah. You're examining him as a character.
Like and this is more of a gag. So there could be a person listening to this podcast that's like, this just felt like a gag, and it did not remind me of my own coming out story, and that's fine too. But for me, I guess I just reminded me of my deleting my. I deactivated my Facebook. Only like I unfriended her, then deactivated my Facebook. Then at the end of the summer before college, reactivated my Facebook, and
it's incredible.
Accepted my sexuality. But there was a point in the summer where I thought, maybe this is something I have to figure out. Also, don't know what it was about my improv that screamed gay. I don't know why Sophie's mom was like, that's a homosexual. I mean, I feel like
I'm curious what was the flagger, but
I mean, I think I was, I had a drama teacher too that kept she phrased it so weirdly. She was gay herself, but kept telling me I was going to cut my hair, which I kind of clocked as her telling me I was gay. But I like that actually like slowed my process of coming out down, because I was like, I like having long hair, so I must not be gay. Like there were all these moments. Yeah. So confusing. And again, liberal town, liberal place, but still a confusing time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because like people are telling you what you are, and you're like, well, I don't identify with that. So like, how can I be that if like they're telling me like if I cut my hair, then I'm, you know what I mean? Like you were having people like tell you like things that were like stereotypical, and then you're like, well, I don't relate to that. So then it just confused it even more.
Yeah, bisexuals have the highest rate of generalized anxiety among any population, including straight, gay. And I think the reason is it's confusing. But look, for any closeted bisexuals listening, it gets better. It's great. Being bisexual is great. But in high school, I can relate to the panic. I've spun out about this now.
I don't know how to segue to Buffy and Willow's conversation, but they chat.
Let's just get they chat.
They chat and they talk about Buffy, says like, "Oh, I noticed like you're researching Solo, like where's Oz?" And Willow's like, "Oh, he wanted to be away from me." And Buffy's just like, "Yeah, I'm like really sorry. And you know what? Like men are dumb, and I think that you need to be the one to make the first move if you want it to go somewhere."
Oh boy.
And of course, in typical 90s fashion, Willow says, "Well, wouldn't that make me a slut?" And it's just like, I can tell you right now from a 2024 perspective, absolutely not, Willow. You're fine. Most people like it if you're straight and you're a woman, most men like it if you make the move first,
Just this season, maybe, and Sarah, this season doesn't have the healthiest perspective on sex, Buffy has sex with her boyfriend, the consequence, he loses his soul. Like the bad eggs, like there's a lot of, and there will be better moments, but this, I think sex is really... sex and consequences are like, it's a real shamey time for the show.
Yeah, you're right. It's like definitely not very sex positive at all.
Yeah.
It's just very like you have sex and you die and then you lose your soul and then
your boyfriend wants
everybody.
Your boyfriend's gonna kill you. It's not great. So they're trying to figure it out. Xander's of course acting all weird when Buffy asks him about Larry, because oh my god, I'm not gay, don't worry about me, rah. But Buffy is like having a really hard time with this because Teresa died and she feels very responsible for it, and they're like, wait a minute, it says that Teresa's death was linked to animal attacks and we just assumed it was a werewolf. So they go to the funeral home. They pull down this little neckerchief thingy that Teresa has on, obvious vampire bites. And Teresa comes to life. Angel says his love. Rah! And Buffy, of course,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and Buffy is like very taken aback when she says that. She's ready to stake Teresa, but she gets caught off guard by this. And luckily Xander's there and he helps out. He gives her a good old stake to the back and poof, dust.
He did good.
Goes.
I did like his movements in that movement of killing. I thought that I think like the actor probably enjoys getting to do these more actiony scenes. So I think that he very much stepped up to the plate, and the fight choreography was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And unlike, I think Xander's at his worst when he's putting the blame in the wrong spot. That's my big critique of Xander sometimes too. And he rightfully is like, this isn't your fault. Like he is emotionally, I don't love the line, my life isn't complicated, because it's not. Your friend hugged you. But other than that, I feel like he rightfully comforts her.
Yeah. I can't stand this.
That makes me feel like it, yes.
Yeah, they do this to me, Hannah, all the time on the show, where they're like, we're going to make a hug that lasts a little bit too long with Xander and Buffy, and then I have to question myself and be like, are we going to make this a thing? I know there's enough seasons of the show. They're bound to make this a thing at some point, and I don't like it. I put this in brick. It should be on my freaking tombstone. No Xander and Buffy. Stop it. I don't want it. Stop it. That's how I feel about it. I don't like it.
We'll move on because I don't want to hear or see. I'm like literally looking away from Hannah, just like I don't want to know. And
if it happens,
please do. I have no poker face. I truly can't believe I played a show on a reality show where so much lying is involved. I have no poker face.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lingering hug. I saw it as well.
And then when they pull away, their faces are too close, and I don't like it.
Yes, yeah, it was a little lingery.
Yeah. We get to see the process of making silver bullets. That was exciting, right?
No.
It was unnecessary. We didn't need this.
No. We don't need to see Kane make his metaphorical penis,
And his like very creepy like child, would you like some candy van,
Ugh, yes. Just fast forward through Kane.
Very, very creepy. So then we see Oz home alone. Where are his parents? No one knows. He has these like shackles. He's getting ready to chain himself up, which I don't think would hold a werewolf, but whatever.
They don't seem new too. He's like taking them out of his box. Like, are his parents into some kinky shit? Like, where are these chains from?
1,000%.
Yeah.
They were a little too accessible for him.
Yeah.
And like rustic, like used. These weren't chains that like he wasn't like
ripping tags off.
Open a new box. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't an Amazon box. He didn't get that delivered today.
No.
Yeah.
His kinky parents are off at some convention.
Yeah. I love it.
We haven't met no, we have not.
No,
met.
we haven't met Oz's parents. We've met hardly anybody's parents.
Yeah.
We have Joyce, who my boyfriend finds very attractive. Maybe I should.
Really? I hate Joyce. But
he's got a crush on Joyce. Well, because Joyce is often used as a sort of roadblock without logic. Yeah. So they don't write her exactly how they want. It's like the Joyce, oh no, she has an issue to deal with, and Joyce has suddenly decided to ground her. Like, it's not used great, but you've got Joyce. Have we seen?
We've seen Buffy's dad.
Anyone else's? Oh,
her real dad.
That's it.
We've heard Willow's mom's voice.
Okay,
and that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
So then Willow comes over, right? And she's just like, he's like, this isn't a great time. And she's just like, you know what? I had this whole thing worked out. Like,
adorable.
Yeah. What am I supposed to think? You buy me popcorn and then you're glad I didn't get bit. And I love when, I forgot to mention this earlier, but when he puts the like tag back on her shirt when they're in gym class and self-defense class. It's
so cute.
Cute, I can't. Oh, it's so cute. And she's like, what am I supposed to think about this? But you know what? You're supposed to be like helping me at the library. Instead, you're sitting all alone at home. And then she turns around and she sees the chains and she's like, what's happening? Like what's going on? And he like wants to be left alone. And he's like, I'm going through changes. And he's like obviously rushing to get her out the door before he changes. Unfortunately, he's too late. And like, we get this like, Sarah, it reminds me of Michael J. Fox in that weird werewolf movie where he plays basketball.
Is that Teen Wolf again?
Yes. He looks like Teen Wolf when he's mid-transformation.
Yeah.
And then his fingers get long and weird.
You know what? So I don't know if there is a time in media where werewolves were done well.
Well, I guess Twilight, right? Like I'm thinking like in terms of the way they look.
Well either. They look terrible.
Better than this.
I mean, yeah, that's
true.
It's
not a high bar. But
they're just
Beauty and the Beast. No, Beauty and the Beast isn't a werewolf.
He's just cursed. A beast. Like he's cursed.
I just like how I was trying to think of a time when the werewolf is hotter than the man, and so I thought of Beauty and the Beast, where he's hotter than the Beast.
That's the only. That is the one time in media where you're right, where the werewolf or the beast is
hotter than the
hotter
human.
Yeah.
It can't be the only time. Listeners, can you write in and tell them next time times where the monster or beast is hotter than the
Please
human?
do.
I'm so sorry for asking stuff of your listeners that
Please,
I won't be around to
listeners,
the
give them
repercussions.
homework. Make them do it. But Willow runs, obviously. She's trying to get away from him. He's chasing her. Thankfully, she gets to the library where Giles and Buffy are planning their plan to get this werewolf. They have a gun that has like a tranquilizer thingy in it.
Yeah, a trank gun.
Yeah. And so how do you say this? Like, yes, the tranquilizer gun I use all the time.
We all have a trank gun, don't we? No, I famously don't have weapons because I'm afraid of hurting myself.
Most people do if you have weapons. It's like a statistic.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I can't
That's why I wanted to do jujitsu, but I can't even. My body, I hurt myself. Like, it's not good.
I fell today. Like that's how much I can't have weapons in my house.
Yeah, I wore like American Eagle like Tivas and almost twisted my ankle.
Mm-hmm.
Can't handle it.
So, luckily Willow gets to the library in time, and I love the method in which she does this, where she's just like, it's us, and they're like, what? She's like, the werewolf. She's like, Giles, are you certain? And she's like, just trust me. He went through changes.
He went through puberty.
I love it so much. I
love that they gave the tiniest short king a big transformation.
Yes.
Love it.
It's the best. And so they're like, okay, well, we have to go like trank him, especially because at the same time we see dumb Kane and he has his stupid silver bullets, and it's like, who's gonna get there first? And Kane has his gun right on because he put out like raw meat and whatever. So he has his gun aimed on Oz. Buffy comes in, kicks him, pulls the gun, yells at him, hits him with it, does the whole like, I'm gonna bend this gun.
Bending his penis. Yeah.
Yes.
Here's the thing. There are going to be listeners that are going to disagree with me. They're going to be like, Kane sucks, but he's necessary. Because look how much tension it was. Imagine, though, for those listening, close your eyes or keep them open. I don't care. Imagine, just like, imagine that, like, Willow runs in and she's like, hey, Oz is the werewolf. And if he kills someone, he's never going to forgive himself. Like, Oz, our character who we love, Oz, is going to be tasked with being a murderer and is going to have to come to terms. Someone we love. He's headed towards a place with people. He finally is not just bouncing off walls during his transformation. Like, I still think there would be tension there without Kane and his stuff.
I agree. I think you're right. Like, I just don't think it was needed at all.
It's really unnecessary.
I just love when our characters talk to each other, like the characters we love. Like, those are the lines we're quoting, that like, if a character comes in that aren't one of the Scoobies, I want them to be fantastic because our characters are now fantastic.
Yeah, and there's tension already. Like, we didn't need, like, it's a matter of like, what if he kills another person versus this rando with silver bullets is gonna shoot him, you know? But luckily, Willow is able to aim the trank gun, shoots Oz, and he's gonna be fine. He's still a human being most of the time. And but
She's
for now,
not
like,
that great a couple nights.
well, that's the interesting thing is I'm interested to see what happens when we get to the next full moon, because they're gonna have to, like, he's not cured, you know, like they're gonna have to like chain him up or something to keep him contained during those times.
Well, yeah.
Okay, how do I want to see if you can look, imagine the library.
Yeah, what is there's the locked cage. There's the sex cage. Yeah.
I mean, I've mentioned the pack way more times than you want.
Why are you doing this to me, Hannah?
That's where they put Xander. They put him in the cage. You know, every library has a cage. And every library has a trank gun. These are just Sunnydale.
We have these things.
Standard issue.
Sunnydale things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking like, Lupin had to go into his own little house. Like, he can live a normal life.
Yeah.
He can live a normal life. It's okay.
So the next day we have Buffy and Xander kind of chatting about Willow and Oz. And Xander is very much like, well, they obviously aren't going to be together now because, like, obviously it's a problem. He's a werewolf and blah, blah, blah. And I love Buffy saying, no, he's definitely the loyal type. And Xander's like, well, if it were up to me, and thank God for Buffy. She's just it's not up to you.
Yeah.
Boom.
Do you think, here's a question as a more spoiled person, do you think Xander will ever be a hypocrite with this rule of his?
Yes, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, very much he's already a hypocrite 90% of the time, so it's not a stretch. Yeah. It's just it's very frustrating, like, that and I understand Willow is still his friend, and so there is like a part of like I'm going to protect my friend, right, from this possibly dangerous guy. Like, obviously he's a werewolf that could be dangerous. But even before he knew Oz was a werewolf, he was very against Willow dating him because, oh, he's a senior. Xander, she is a junior. This is not a big age gap.
He's jealous. He's jealous.
So
like,
annoying.
What was the funny line he had a couple episodes ago? Like, I get turned on by, it was like something, like, I'm a teenage boy, so-and-so.
Oh, everything turns me on. Yeah.
Well, it was
everything. There's something like that.
It was something that
exact line. It was
that was a funny line.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, the attention's not all on me, you know, boo-hoo. Let me cry about it. I can't listen.
You hate him. You hate him.
I do. I hate him.
You have to release this hate from your heart. It's not good for you.
I'm genuinely frightened for you for the next episode.
Oh, I can't wait. Can't wait to watch that.
Genuinely, I'm gonna have to tune into that episode. But I'll let you finish the summary. I have interrupted.
But we do follow Willow outside to see Oz, and it is like, you know, Oz is like, well, I did talk to Giles. I'll have to lock myself up around the full moon, you know. And Willow is like, oh, I'm really sorry that like I had to shoot you and everything. And Oz is like, it's okay. I'm sorry. I almost ate you. And like, it's so
They've come
cute.
to an understanding. Yeah.
It's
This
so cute.
this was genuinely
Yes.
very, very cute.
Yeah. I love this
cute.
connection.
And like I mentioned, Christoph Beck is now scoring Buffy. So you have the quiet piano that he puts in that just makes already good writing just sort of dance. Like in Innocence, when he, you have the Buffy Angel piano, and then he plays it again after Angel's turned, and you're like, oh, right. His scoring of it is so pretty.
Have you ever watched Felicity, Hannah?
Mm-mm. I've
No?
seen the haircut scene for some reason. It's shown me that, right? She gets her haircut and then they cancel
You
it.
only
The
had a
world
haircut.
loses its
Yeah.
mind.
I've only seen Felicity cut her hair. That's all I've seen of Felicity.
Yeah,
I'm so
I mean
sorry.
that's pretty much. Jess, like there's do you want to play Hannah, our special new sound?
I do. So
Yeah.
the last episode we watched, just to give you some context, and for any of those people out there who just listen to the Buffy podcast, not the Felicity ones, this last episode that we just watched, there's this like very tumultuous moment between two characters. They're in a relationship. They find out they're in college, and the girl finds out she's pregnant. And the entire episode, every time there's a scene between them, this specific music plays, and it is so, and it like to the point where both of us noticed it separately, that it like is constant.
It was
so
distracting.
It was very distracting. And so now we've put it on our like soundboard so that we can just have it if something sad happens on a podcast. This is what we'll play. It's so sad.
Do.
Yeah. And it's like goes on forever. Like this is just one of the scenes of the episode and no one's talking. It's just this.
Yeah.
It's
so
awful.
at least, I mean, Buffy doesn't have this. So you're right. The music is better.
Wow. Well, it wasn't in season 1. It was a lot of like bass guitar and stuff, and now it has
it was
like
a little rock and roll
piano, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, Oz and Willow.
I
Beautiful.
love it. And
they're great.
And he's trying to be like, listen, I can stay away from you. Like, I know I'm dangerous, whatever. And she's like, no. I really like you. You're really nice. You're really funny. You don't smoke. And maybe you're a werewolf sometimes, but only on a show where a man is like the creator and writer would a teenage girl compare getting her period 3 days a month to being a freaking werewolf. As if that's the same thing. Oh my God, I have PMS. Oh, I'm just as bad as a freaking werewolf. Unbelievable. I'm offended.
Yeah.
I'm offended on behalf
of
all womankind.
You are offended, yes.
Yes, because I'm sorry. You know what? You shed your uterine lining and like cub call me, all right? You come tell me about you have menstrual cramps, and then you come consult me about how I should be acting. Truly.
It's very 90s. It's a very 90s joke, yes.
Yeah. It's offensive. I'm annoyed.
I just like Willow's attempt to relate, though. I just see like sweet Willow who wants to relate to her boyfriend being like, hey, I relate. It's like when someone goes through something terrible and someone's like, yeah, like I tripped today. Like I just, sweet Willow just, like when
she's trying to bridge the gap.
She's so excited to have a boyfriend, like she was so excited to bring a date to Buffy's birthday a couple episodes ago. I think, Willow is one of the most beautifully written characters on the show. And so it's not shocking that her love on the show throughout is just, complex and beautiful. I just love them.
It's very
it's
sweet.
Great.
It's like, I love she says, so I'd still if you'd still. And he goes, I'd very still. And it's just like so cute. And then she walks up and then she comes back and they kiss. And it's so cute.
She makes the move. Look,
she does.
Look, she does what she said she would do, which is make the move.
Yeah.
She makes the move, which gives him permission. I just hope that like going forward, now he feels like, like I can step up in these moments too.
I think they're in a season of sort of shaming lust and love. They are a healthy version of high school.
Yeah.
For at least from here on, it feels like they're a healthy version of building emotional connection when that happens. Like, yeah, it's I like them. Yeah.
Yeah,
Their moments are just have so much more feeling than like much more dramatic moments. They're just the smallest moments.
Yeah.
yeah,
They're shooting up in the relationship rankings for sure.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Ugh.
they talk about animal crackers and it's like the most romantic
It's so
scene
cute.
ever.
I love that.
Like it's just
yeah.
he just sort of accepts her for who she is and sees her with or without. It's like he sees the growth that she's going to get to go through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's perfect.
yeah.
I love them.
And
that's where we end our
They're the-
episode on such a lovely
Yeah.
little note. It's so cute. And
Mhm.
I really loved this episode. I thought it like did so much for a lot of the characters, like especially Willow. And obviously the show is Buffy, like a lot of it is Buffy, but you know, it's important to dimensionalize and expand on the other characters and to have this like big Oz and Willow episode. I was just so here for it. I've been waiting for it ever since they kind of sprinkled in the Oz sprinkles. You know, he's been hanging around. This was like the
He's been
biggest
seeing
moment
her.
for them. Yeah, I just love it. It was so good. I loved it.
Yeah, it's a show that, obviously Buffy is always at the center of, sometimes to the detriment of the show, but I feel like more and more we get to have episodes that are, Willow-centric, Giles-centric. There's actually one of my favorite episodes of the whole series. It's not the next one that comes up, but is Xander-centric, and it's one of the most brilliantly written episodes. And I think it's fun when we get to can I say which one of the name of it, or is that too much of a spoiler?
The name of your favorite episode?
One of my favorites, Xander. It's called The Zeppo. You guys will eventually watch it.
The Zeppo. Ooh.
The Zeppo. It's I think it's season 3. And it's a Xander-centric episode. And so the show does allow itself to center other characters, but it is a show about Buffy and Buffy reaching adulthood through basically the metaphor of the Slayer. So it is about her, but they do, Willow gets more and more explored. It's a shame that her first episode is that stupid, like censored episode, is that stupid cyber episode. If you're not plugged in, you're plugged out. Like,
Jess loves that episode.
So funny. I do. I love it because it's so dumb. That's why I love it. It's like the perfect blend of stupid and funny. Yeah. So that was our episode. We did get an email from Tara back about Innocence. But Sarah, she did love your contempt for Jenny, aka the lying skank.
Oh yeah. Wait, Hannah, what do you think about that lying skank?
Yes.
I did say that she was our skank.
Oh.
So
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Are you a Ms. Calendar
Well,
fan?
it's hard. So here's what's difficult about Jenny Calendar, and I will try my best not to spoil as I express this. I feel like she is also used in a plot way similar to Joyce, but she is so important to Giles, and I love Giles so much that I would need to defend her because, my nerdy bad boy librarian she means a lot to him. So she has to, but I do think that they could have, I think sometimes she's there for the purpose of plot, whether it's the annoying cyber episode or her role with, that all of that. So, like everyone, she's a flawed character.
Yeah. My issue, the listeners are not, they know. I didn't like that, like, she couldn't hang. Like, she got possessed by one demon, and she was like, I can't hang. It's like, well, if you're going to be with the Scoobies and be with the crew, then you have to hang, Like, you can't get all crazy over one little demon.
But don't you think that part of that was that Giles sort of called that demon? So it was like the guy she was into caused this thing that had this scary experience for her. And she did forgive him. It just took her a moment.
It did.
I think it was because of Giles's role in that, bad boy Giles.
Interesting.
Oh, I loved, yes, what, Ripper?
So hot,
Ripper.
I know.
Yeah.
Ripper. Again, this show, unbeknownst to me, rewatching it now, so much of my sexuality is show.
Can we ask you, have you seen, what is it? The Mummy? No. Is it The Mummy, Sarah? Have you seen The Mummy, Hannah?
No.
Apparently The Mummy is a bisexual awakening movie for like everyone on the planet.
Okay, well, I'm awake, so I'll happily check it out. But no, I think Sarah, I do think that like the reason she was upset was because Giles kind of created this thing.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But I'm not defending her. Some of her character moments get sacrificed for the sake of plot, and that's a bummer.
That's true. Yeah, I do like. I mean, I like her in theory. It's just that, like I think like I just didn't like it when she started rejecting Giles. That's like I think like where I was like, because I've always been such a strong Giles fan.
You are no.
Sure.
Don't lie to Hannah.
She hasn't?
No. She thought he was boring, and she said she would fall asleep when he would go on his lore rants.
Well, yeah, I mean, like,
oh my gosh,
is a little boring, and he kind of just whittles on. Oz even said so in this episode. He was like, he explained to me the thing. It was in a lot of words. Everybody goes to sleep when he talks. He talks too much.
Giles is the best.
I strong disagree, but I'll also say that Giles is holding Jenny accountable for her bad behavior of keeping the secret from them. Obviously, Jenny did not know what would happen because the uncle guy, had to keep it vague. How dare he just specifically draw out what was going to happen so they could stop it?
Is she or is she not a techno pagan?
Can you define that for me? So
we don't know.
We wish we could
understand.
Okay, it's a witch that specializes in technology. But she said that she was a techno pagan.
Sorry, can you say a witch that was
specializes in technology? A techno pagan. She said that she was, but I just feel like that's a lie.
I mean, it's hard in the 90s portrayal of technology. Like there are parts of her that feel that she predicted things, but also outdated.
I think that she too, just like Willow, can Google, and she's like, "I have."
She's
special
the best
powers.
Googler.
She's
Googler
the
around.
Queen Googler. Do we have any other feedback, Jessica?
No, that is all the feedback we have for this episode. Beyond our friends Todd and Tom being tickled pink when I mentioned Oz potentially being a werewolf a few episodes ago, and just waiting for this moment to happen. But next week we're going to be covering season 2, episode 16. Sarah, you're going to be excited. Are you ready for the title?
Yeah.
Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered.
Ooh.
We will have a witchy moment.
Well, I like the title, but I mean, Hannah says it's like a shit of an episode.
Oh, well, it's a bad Xander episode. That's all.
No. Wait. Time out. I need to clarify something. I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's about Xander, and he has bad behavior potentially, but it is not a shit episode. It is a Marty Knox episode, which means it is funny and clever and wonderful.
Okay.
So it is not a bad episode. It is, I believe it's written by Marty Knox. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. Her episodes are funny and lighthearted and great. I just wanted to clarify, that's really important to me, that it is a very fun episode.
I appreciate that.
I'm just saying that as Xander two podcasters who seem angry about Xander's behavior, this won't help you is all I mean. That's all I'll say.
Are there witches?
You can't ask for
spoilers,
Sarah. No, do not answer, Sarah. We are supposed to find that out for ourselves.
Yeah, maybe if there's witches, the witch in the trophy will come back. I don't know.
Listen,
I love witches.
We love black magic.
We do.
We do.
We
So
do.
we'll have to see. And of course,
Yeah.
we're going to be joined by our amazing friend Lindy. So that will be exciting. That's how I knew the episode
Lindy.
couldn't be bad, because generally people don't sign up for bad
No.
episodes.
Well, Lindy picks good episodes
She
as
does.
well.
So we'll see about that next week. But thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on this podcast and chatting with us about Buffy. It has been absolutely fabulous. Obviously, you're going to be coming back next season, so we'll be in contact. And we already know you're coming back for season 4. So we'll figure out a season 3 episode that you want to chat about. But is there anything you want to plug, anywhere people can find you or see what you're up to?
Oh yeah. Sorry, in the middle of the episode, I was like, this is the one from season 4. I would love to come back. You can tell by the 2 hours. I love talking about Buffy. Thank you guys both genuinely for having me. So I've been making some comedy sketches and posting them mainly on my Instagram. That's at Hannah Lil Nesson. So you can find me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, but Instagram is where I've been posting comedy. So that's been really fun. So check that out.
Incredible. Check all of that out. Of course, you can find us here on Shit 90s Pod, talking about Felicity, talking about Buffy. You can find Sarah over on Whirlwind Podcasts, talking about so much stuff. And then me over on Talking Shit, talking about Schitt's Creek. So that's where we'll leave you all this week. Until next week, we'll get into season 2, episode 16, Bewitched, Bothered, and Bewildered. Until then, here endeth the list.
Just ask. Shit 90 shows taught me.
Shit 90 Shows Taught Me was not filmed before a live studio audience.